Okay, we'll call this meeting to order if we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Good
morning,
Thank you
Mr. Chair.
for coming.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
You got the minutes in the meeting. Could I get approval of the county board minutes?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have no changes this morning.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I got a motion to
Second.
accept the agenda as written by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Proclamation adoption. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good morning, Melanie. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I'm here today to recognize National Adoption Month and our local adoptive families and children that are have special needs. So, whereas there are Minnesota children in need of permanent and loving homes, 12 of these children that continue to need permanency by adoption are Morrison County child residents. And whereas nearly all of these children have special needs because of physical, mental, or emotional disabilities, because they must be placed as a sibling group, or because they are school age. And whereas these children need extra patience and support to help them overcome previous hardships, children benefit from the connections to their family and their community supports. And whereas in 2017, 23 Morrison County children with special needs were adopted by families. And whereas there are families able and willing to adopt children who have special needs, willing to attend special services and training in order to meet the needs of the children. And whereas there are currently 5 Morrison County children in pre-adoptive homes awaiting finalization of their adoption, there are 7 children waiting to find permanent families to adopt them as they reside in foster care. And whereas children waiting for adoptive parents and families who have adopted these children require and deserve community and public agency support. And whereas children that age out of foster care are more likely to become homeless, incarcerated, or in need of the support of welfare benefits. Now therefore be it resolved that November is hereby declared Adoption Awareness Month in Morrison County.
Mr. Chair, I'd move on this.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair? Melanie, your agency deals with many different things, and a lot of hard stuff, and nobody knows that until they need some of the services that are there. There's not a question about it. And we could, or I could say that every one of those services are more important than the other one. And they are. Every one is more important. Doesn't matter which one it is. Every one is more important, including what you just read. It's just more important than any of the other ones today. It's just because it is. It truly is, and it takes special people to do a special job, and all I can say is thanks, because it's remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Melanie, again, I just see how you take this so personal, you know, and it becomes part of your life. And I from all these years I sit on the board, you do a heck of a job on
Thank you.
this.
Our staff does a heck of a job. I had a social worker up at 2 a.m. again last
Yeah.
night with one of these kids in foster care waiting adoption and hospitalized, and it does, their foster home is going to extraordinary lengths to try to help them heal.
It's huge stuff.
Yep.
Amazing.
Just huge stuff.
And I have to agree with what Jeff said. You know, every agency that you guys work with is important. And this one today is the most important one today. So I thank you very much for all the work you've done. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We should have a phone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mel.
Yes.
Mel, where are you going? Where are you going?
Oh, we got
Where are
it.
you going? Where are you
Going to hide.
Let's put her, let's put her in
She
line.
thought that if I wouldn't have my gimpy leg.
We're gonna put you in the center chair.
I'd probably stand and be.
All right, how's that?
JJ, go that way so it's kind of centered, like the first 4 weeks.
Like a little more?
Yep.
The first
A little more? Little more?
Little
Randy,
more.
more.
A little more. Jeff, way over.
Move over farther.
No. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was, I think
That's
there's
just-
better, I know.
Is my tie okay?
Yeah.
That was remarkable. Yes, it was.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you very, very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Melanie.
Yep, thank you very much. Okay, community development, Carol. Welcome.
Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Carol.
Well, first off, thank you all for coming to the Wabash ribbon cutting.
You're more than
It's a
welcome.
really nice company to be in our community. We're gonna start working with them again with the school district now to see if we can get some internships in there.
Looks like
Person.
we hit a home run with them.
I think we hit a home run, big time, grand slam.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you work with the other school districts in the area too to
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, we do a little bit with peers. Little Falls is really the one, you
Yep.
know,
Yep, I
that's,
understand.
yeah. But through rural Minnesota SEP, you know, they've got career counselors in all the school districts, so
Okay.
they work with them too. Like when we do a manufacturing tour, we bring students from peers over and,
If I may comment, talking to some of the employees there too, they just got these large smiles on their face and they're just, seems like, again, and I'll say it again, that's a grand slam with them.
Oh,
It
yeah.
seems like they're a good employer.
yep. And they're offering the jobs back first to former
Right,
Larson
yeah.
employees. And then after that, they'll go and make it more public, you know, so, and everyone from Larson has been coming back.
Yeah.
They've been getting, you know, a higher wage than what they had and better benefits. and-
Yeah.
And so I think this is the beginning of something really good. So, I mean, thank you for supporting it. I mean, Deb was there when sometimes things didn't look so good.
We
But,
got there.
but we got there.
And you did a lot, Carol, thank you for that.
No problem. We also closed out some other loans here. We just closed out one for the Waller House Inn. They're doing some improvements over there, so we were able to help them with that. And Old Creamery Quilt Shop, if any of you guys get a chance to go through there. They've got their woolen mill is open. They bought a building that was sitting vacant for several years and put the woolen mill in there. And they've got, at least here a month ago, they had a 4-month backlog of wool. And you know, it's taking from the small farmers, you know, that come in and they say the kids come in and they have their big bag of wool from, you know, Susie the sheep. And they put the name on it and they can track Susie's wool all the way through the process. And then it comes back, you know, so it's a great thing there. And I think they're gonna continue to do other things over there and we're really pleased to help them.
So, Mr. Chair, Carol, what are we talking about here? Are they making yarn?
Well, that's the first, that's the last stage. When it goes through the process, you know, they wash it, they clean it.
Yep.
And then it goes through the process and it comes out like in a big sheet. And that they can use for batting for quilts. And wool is the most expensive batting that you can get, but it's the best. So if it doesn't go for the batting, for the quilts, then they kind of break it up and then they spin it. And yes, they get the yarn and they can dye it and sell it in their shop or give it back to the person who brought it in.
Wow.
So again, you can raise your own, like they did in the old days, raise your own
Yep.
sheep, spin
Yep.
the wool and make a sweater or a hat or
You just have to
whatever.
buy a spinning wheel, Commissioner.
Yeah.
To make stocking
No, I was
caps, too.
kind of curious, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, but for them, it's a natural, you know, because you can use
Oh,
that for
sure.
the batting for the
Absolutely.
quilts.
Very good.
Carol,
Yeah.
did they purchase a building adjacent?
They have
Is there
wool
one there?
Yes,
Okay.
there was one there
probably do.
between them and the highway. It was like an auto repair shop. And so they cleaned it all out, they painted it, and when you go by, it's a red building, they painted it red, and you will see Old Creamery Woolen Mill on there. Yeah, so just take a look when you go by. And I think she's gonna hire, she's already hiring 1 extra, but the plan is for 5 extra employees in Randall. That's a good thing.
Great.
Yeah. Twin Star Transfer is a new trucking company that we closed a loan with to help them with some working capital needs to get on their feet and get going. With Pine Country, we partnered, and they have trucking routes between Minnesota and Texas. So they're hiring a bunch of truck drivers, and it actually was The employees are coming, and the truck drivers are coming from the former Mintex truck company that went out of business. And this guy stepped in and is picking up, he bought some different trucks, and so they're operating out of the Manufacturing Development Center. They're renting some space there. I was able to help the city, and the city of Little Falls has developed a new program. They put $250,000 into a program where they will help commercial retail businesses in Little Falls if they have to put in a new roof, heating, air conditioning, painting, walls, electrical, all that stuff that's hard to fund, because of collateral. How do you collateralize the paint on the wall, and a lot of businesses have that issue. So we did a lunch and learn, and we had over 30 people there at the Initiative Foundation, and I think I've got 7 pre-applications already from businesses. And as we went to tour, they're kind of breaking out into 2 areas. You're having the young person that came in, and it's a professional person, and they bought the building, but the roof leaks. And the roof is the most expensive thing to try and fix. So, we can help with that. The other group is the older group that may be more professional and want to attract younger people to come in and take over their business and work into it, and they can't do it because younger people want a really nice looking place to work in, so they've got to upgrade. So it's kind of been breaking out into those 2 things, and when we're looking at the whole thing, what do you need? Do you need help buying the building? Do you need help with equipment or the roof or whatever? And there's all these other programs, and so I kind of put that quilt work together of the financing for it. Might be a case for community development, we'll do the equipment. HBC will do the storefront, and this other program will do walls, electrical, handicapped accessible bathrooms, all that kind of thing. And the idea is to fill up the business fronts that may be empty, but also those that are there, spruce them up, and the frame shop down here is a perfect example. That was the first one of the program. Turned out just beautiful, so, yeah.
And Carol, this isn't money that you just give people, they have to pay it back,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Yep.
60% is a loan, is gonna be a 0% loan. They're running it like the HPC program. The other 30% is going to be a forgivable loan that if they own the property for 10 years, it will be forgiven. And then 10% equity. And the city's done that with the HPC for years. They wanted to expand it instead of the storefront. Let's get into the business itself and help there too.
Oh,
Thank you.
So, that's all I have for now.
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Carol. Okay, live better, live longer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
If you would state your names for the record.
Sure. Kate Bjorgi.
And Mary Kenna.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to visit with you and update you on what's going on with Live Better, Live Longer. And I also just want to add that you have our sympathy. This is the first meeting in a really long time where we don't have Commissioner Johnson sitting across the table from us, and he was always such a affirming, encouraging, supportive individual. So I know his presence is missed greatly.
Thank you.
And we also know that you heard from us with a more intensive update in August, but we felt that it was important for you to just hear just particularly about our one program, the Eat Smart program. So we want to just bring you up to date with that program and then also share a little bit of the vision that we have for that program moving into the future.
All
Mary?
right. So I will just talk briefly about the Eat Smart program. You might recall that is funded through the CHI Mission and Ministries Fund, along with support from many partners. If I could say anything, that is what has helped us to be successful and really be impactful in our work is the partnerships that we have throughout the county. And that certainly includes public health. We receive referrals from WIC. Sprout has been amazing to work with in terms of facility and support and just kind of marketing our program. You know, we work with a number of other Oasis, Central Minnesota, they're on our advisory team. Extension, yep. They really have done an amazing job with our education component for the program. So we're just really excited. We've already had some conversation with Brad about continuing to meet and talk about what those needs are and how we might partner to work on those needs. Again, knowing none of us operate in a silo and we all have limited resources. So we just want to acknowledge how important that has been to our work. So with the Eat Smart program, we had those 3 components with the program. The first was the summer program, and that just finished at the end of September. We served over 200 folks with that program, 57 households. Of that, the majority were children, 126 kids, and then 95 adults were involved with that program. The age in that program of the registered, the main head of household, was anywhere from 22 to 72. So a wide variety. The majority did have kids, but we had a number of folks who were either, widowed, a widower, just individuals who were definitely impacted by the program. It's interesting, if you haven't been there, and I know you've seen the video, there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of activity with Sprout when we're running that program. And that program, they provided, we provided education along with the CSA, the Community Supported Agriculture, through Sprout. It was interesting, the average age of the household was in that 30 to 39 age. And so really seeing a lot of those folks dealing with mental health issues. Some have cancer, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, a lot of those major health issues that have been identified in our county health rankings. So knowing that our work has been impactful, again, is really important. We did have 13 households pull out of the program at some point for various reasons. Some of those got a new job, moved. We had a couple of Somalian families that were in the program, but ended up moving to St. Cloud. Some weren't using the food. When I do a non-medical intake with those participants, I let them know right away and remind them often. If it's not working for them, if they have questions, if they're not using the food, to let us know. It's very expensive, and we want to make sure that food is being utilized. So some pulled out of the program because they really weren't using the food, which I would rather have that and then put another family in that spot. So I think when that happened, there is always some flux, and so we know that besides those 200 plus participants, we would have extra shares every week, and so those went to the food shelf. We had some go to our diabetes educators that they would give out. They were very large shares, so they could split that into several people. A couple of churches utilized that. And I think what's really neat is we had several of those participants say they shared it with neighbors or friends. They couldn't eat it all. So again, we know that it's impacting even more than the numbers that we can measure. We also took a look at the communities that were involved, where those participants lived that were involved with the program. We served 10 communities. 2 were not in Morrison County. One was Long Prairie and one was Rice, but those folks doctor here, so those referrals were made through our healthcare system to the program. The largest, of course, is Little Falls, and then Piers had the next, and then there were a couple from Randall, Bolus, Cushing, Royalton. So again, that we're doing outreach throughout the whole county is important. I was really amazed I asked Sprout for the total number of the food that was distributed from mid-June through the end of September. There were almost 400 dozen of eggs distributed, 395 dozen of eggs, 4,819 pounds of food, fresh produce that is locally grown, that Sprout has purchased from those area growers, and then we purchase that from Sprout. So, and then 25 bottles of honey and 25 bottles of smoothie oil. So that was distributed just in that time frame. I think, again, one of the pieces we really worked on this last summer that there wasn't as successful in 2016 was the education. If you recall, we really wanted to make sure this was a program that wasn't just come in and get your food and leave. And so this year, the participants, we let them know that they needed to participate in at least 2 education classes. And again, Extension provided all of that education for us. So one that we asked all of them to do was the grocery store tour, the Cooking Matters at the grocery store. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where they do a tour. We did some in Piers and then at Coburn's. They go through, do a walkthrough, learn how to read labels, just how to shop smart on a tighter budget and eat a little healthier. And when something goes on sale, you can buy a lot of it and you can freeze some of that if they have the ability to do that. So we saw a big increase in the numbers of the participants. About 75% of them completed that tour, and then we had that second class, over 80% took a second class. So, and some even took a third class. So again, and they weren't all just one time. We had several that were 6-week series that they had to come on weeks that they weren't picking up a CSA. So again, that shows a commitment from them to be involved with that. So we're real excited how that program has evolved and continues to impact those families. Now, those families have been invited to participate if they were active and involved, picked up their CSAs, completed their education, to be involved in the winter program, and that is starting next week out at Sprout. Commissioner Jelinski, I think you were out there for one of those last
Blows my
year.
mind.
Yeah, it's amazing. We met with Sprout and talked about increasing the number of families, because in the summer program, we have 50 households we can serve. The winter, it was 25 last winter. We've upped that to 30, so we're kind of just spreading that CSA out a little bit. We've got the same budget to work with, so we're hoping that we will serve 30 households. We have 25 already committed to the program that intakes have been done. Some of those are new referrals from our providers. Some have come from our diabetes educators. And some have come from the school districts, both Piers and Little Falls. So we're excited about that. We're at about 95 people that will be, when they come in, they participate in that food demonstration. Again, Extension or the hospital has done that, where they're preparing something from the items that they're receiving that day. We give them recipes. They get to taste it. The kids get to taste it, even though they might not know what it is. It's surprising how many haven't had, different fresh vegetables that we're able to provide. So we do the food demonstration, then we serve a family meal. So we've really modeled it on that FAST program, the Family and Schools Together program. We have some family communication activities. The meal is provided in part by the hospital, and we provide a healthy meal. As a matter of fact, one of the comments last year was, do you have to have salad with every meal that we have? So, but it's once a month, so they come together once a month. And then once we're done with supper, we break into groups. We have 3 groups for the kids at different ages doing activities, and then we provide education for the adults. The first education that will happen this next Monday on the 13th is healthy crock pot cooking. You don't have to just dump soup in there and make it. That's good, but how to cook healthy. We will be talking about sleep and how important that is in your overall health. That's for December. January, we're going to talk about healthy Super Bowl snacks and talk about proportions. Again, just that awareness. The February one, we'll be talking about gardening, because again, that is a good way to sustain accessibility to that fresh produce. And then in March, we're looking at talking about community connections, and a little bit, we haven't formed that whole program, just maybe introducing the whole ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, because again, we know a lot of these folks are dealing with many issues. I'm going to let Kate talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So again, all of the winter program happens right at Sprout. It's very convenient for families. They come in about 4:45 and they're out of there no later than 7. And so that will happen from November through March, and that is the winter program. Then in the spring, we will go into the gardening mode, and it really, those pieces have kind of been assumed and are being sustained by the master gardeners, extension. There's a number of folks that are working on the gardening piece, so that's kind of that third component. So any questions about that, or?
Well, Mr. Chair, I would just need to make a comment on it. I look at Sprout and the programs that are tied together as build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Every time I walk into that facility, the Crestliner complex, if you will, my blinders are taken off more and more and more every time because there's so much there, all of that.
Right.
Then you add in what you just got done presenting here, and it truly is build it and they will come.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing program as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
very much for that.
So, whoops, I'm sorry.
That's next Monday
The
at
13th
5:45.
at 4:45, they will start to register. You are welcome to stop in and even just, you know.
4:45.
Yep,
Yeah.
take a,
Okay.
just take a look, or if you want to join us for dinner, you know, you're welcome to do that too, so.
We think it's also important that you know we were able to conduct 2 focus group sessions with our Eat Smart participants. So Pat Rio from the hospital was a neutral facilitator that didn't have any interaction or contact prior with these folks. Mary and I were not present. And really, we wanted to get to the heart of, you know, so we're giving you free food, we're giving you education, we're giving you this program, so what? I mean, we wanted to be able to honestly answer, is this making a difference? Are you throwing away any of the food? What impact is this having? And so we were really quite heartened by the results that came out of that focus group session, and that the folks said absolutely not. We're using every item. There were a couple items that they didn't still feel like they maybe knew what to do with or had too much of. Tomatillas was one of them. So they had discussion about that, but they also told us they would come to the program if all they got were eggs. Eggs was the number one item that they just were so grateful to have. And if they couldn't use it, they found someone who could use it. And even more important was the fact that they talked about some of the social barriers to getting to the program, some of the anxiety and the mental health issues that they were struggling with, and how this program was helping them overcome those issues. And so knowing that that is the chief health concern. 4 years ago when we looked at introducing this program, we were really looking at obesity and food insecurity. Well, now we're realizing that, mental health has emerged to the top of the chief health concern in our county. And these folks are telling us that, 73% of our participants are dealing with some type of a diagnosed mental health disorder. And so we really have paid attention to that. And so we think it's important that we have contacted CHI Mission and Ministry Fund. That's our primary funder of this program, and are hopeful that we will have an invitation to write for another 3-year program that would allow us to continue to partner with our providers out in the community and accept referrals for people that are dealing with mental health issues and also addiction recovery. We know that right now some of our opioid addiction folks that are in the Suboxone program, and that's a medical assisted treatment program, are struggling with, being able to connect with AA because they're not completely free of substance. And so they're looking for their own support group. And so there's a great opportunity for us to work with those folks and bring them into this program concept. One of the gentlemen that's in that Suboxone program right now has talked about how, we don't want to just sit together around donuts and coffee. What would happen if we, he's really passionate about cooking. What would happen if we had our own support group at Sprout, at the demonstration kitchen, that learned how to cook together? So some of those conversations are happening, and we're really excited about being able to continue to do the good work that we're doing around social connection and really helping people overcome some of those mental health barriers through programs that partner them with nutrition. So we're excited and hopeful and optimistic about that.
Great.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair, it's very easy, what you just said, to, when people attend a session, if you want to call it that, whatever,
Yeah.
to just stay in their own little tiny cubicle. But I've been there, and you don't really like that.
No.
Just stay right here. Come on, join in. And you kind of ask people or bring people together. That communications piece that we now are opening up just a little bit. Hi, how are you?
Right.
Sometimes is a very difficult thing for others to do.
Right.
But you bring them. I mean, the whole program has so many different things to offer. That is, yes, I love it. Very good.
So new to this winter program is that we're introducing people that will be able to be at a table and help mentor that communication and facilitation,
That's
because sometimes you just assume that if you bring a family together around a table with food, they're going to interact and be able to put their phone down and,
Doesn't always work that way.
right, and so we're really trying to be very intentional about those interactions.
Love it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for this
Thank you very
opportunity.
much.
Appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, Kate and Mary. Okay, Sheriff's report. Good morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Commissioner. Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning. Morning. Morning, members of the board. So today I was just going to go over the 2018 contract that we have with Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office. I looked it over with the previous contract. There is no changes in the contract language and/or the fees, so everything does remain the same. So I'd be looking for a signature from the chair.
Sounds good.
And again, this would be for 2018, so January 1, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
Got a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Is there any further discussion?
I have a little discussion, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I just want to bring it out anyway, because we are talking about Dr. McGee in Ramsey County.
Correct.
Only place there is?
Nope, there's other places.
And?
We've never had any issues
Nope.
with this place, and I think we've had the same contract. So my predecessor started this with Ramsey County Medical Center. I think we've had a contract for probably 8 or 9 years. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's been that long.
I think you're probably right.
So, there are other places that do it. Again, our office has had a good relationship with them, so that's why we're gonna continue.
Makes sense to me. Thank you.
And as far as the dollar and cents goes, if we don't use them, they still have a dollar figure they charge the county every year?
Yes, so it's in the contract. So every autopsy that we have to actually pay for their services. The problem with that is when we levy for money, it's basically just the best educated estimate that we can come up with. Unfortunately, I can't predict how many deaths are gonna be per year, but we've come under every year, so I guess that's good.
There you go.
That's good. Any other questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Good luck getting the big one shot.
Social service. Brad and Melanie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Since it is Adoption and Permanency Month, we thought we would share some of the statistics we have relative to some of the caseloads coming through here. So I will turn over to Melanie. She put some graphs in your packet.
Okay. Good morning. I am focusing on state ward clients, state ward adoptions. And a state ward, just to clarify what that means, is that this is not all adoptive kids available in Morrison County. These are children that are specifically coming out of our child protection system and our child in need of protection services petitions that we file with county attorney's office for child protection cases. And that we cannot reunify these children with their parents. And after, there's a time limit that we have according to the law. We have, at 6 months, we review permanency, and most of these do get an extension at 6 months. And by 12 months, though, we we hope to and we need to be making a permanency decision, which would mean either a termination of parental rights or a transfer of custody to another relative, or maybe it is possibly finding a father that we haven't had found before and transferring custody to that person. I do not have in these statistics today those transfers of custody to relatives. We're doing a few of those every year, a handful, 3 or so. So I wanted to focus on state wards because those are the children that are remaining in foster care that have the highest needs. Because we may not have found a relative or we haven't secured that adoption yet. And for some of the situations, they do get adopted by their foster parent.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Bill, maybe you're gonna come to it. Is there the age that you're more apt to have in that category, whether it's state ward, or is it infants, or is it teenagers?
At this time, most of our children that are state wards are falling in the under 5 category. But we do have kids that are reach as far as an age now into early high school. And those kids are, again, they're much more difficult to find adoptive homes for if they're not already residing in a relative situation. And so at this point in time, we have kids that are in those older middle school ages that are probably around 4 of them that I can count offhand. I didn't dig into that statistic, but just kind of knowing our caseloads, 4 or 5 of them at this point. So we have 35 state board cases that we've managed in the last year. And we did get 23 adoptions completed, and that is, as you can see, the highest amount of adoptions we've completed. I have shifted around staff time in order to accommodate that higher caseload again with adoptions. We've had our assistance from our case aides so that I could shift licensing for childcare into a different manner so that we can accommodate all that work. And one of the things that we do, the state does monitor us on, is that we can do those timely. That means from the time that they become a state ward, that within 2 years or 24 months, we get that adoption achieved, which can mean that we are, at times we are working with private agencies and adoption recruitment agencies in order to find adoptive homes for kids that are hard to place. And as you can see, we've been pretty successful with having those timely adoptions and only having 2 that were not timely. So well within the standard that the state expects for us. So this is kind of a look at our current state ward situation. I've been doing kind of a look at this. That number that is potential new state wards, that's not a scientific number. That comes from 25 years of experience. And looking
Which is
at
pretty
the
scientific.
caseload, and looking at the kids that are on child protection caseloads that are likely not going to get reunified. And right now, the biggest factor in that situation is our drug cases, and we'll be discussing more of that in coming months. But in addition to, we also have a situation where we have predatory offenders that now, so if they're a registered predatory offender, every child they have has to have an assessment, no matter if, and which is probably a good idea. I mean, it's increased workload for us, but it's a good idea. And for those situations, a lot of times we're doing termination of the parental rights. Most of the time in those situations, the mother can provide safety, but there are a few situations where that is not the case. And possibly the mother's been terminated previously too, and then we have another state ward. In addition to that, another factor is that because the law changed several years ago, that if you have a previous termination of parental rights, if you have another child following that, that automatically is another termination of parental rights that we're filing. And so we do have clients in this county and throughout the state of Minnesota that have had their rights terminated that continue to have their children. And so that's another factor that's contributing to that higher number, in addition to that drug issue that we're communicating. Because there's really, as I look at, there's 3 issues kind of converging on this situation. So Those kids at the end of the chart that are in regular foster care, they are state wards, they're in foster care, and we're looking for adoptive homes. They have very high needs, and they have very high mental health needs, and we're doing our best to stabilize them and heal them while we're looking for care. And those are our older kids. Those are the kids in middle school, young high school that have just been through a lot. They are older when their parents' rights are terminated. That's a very difficult process for them. How do you comprehend that as a child, you know? So those kids will probably be in that foster care category for a while.
So, Mr. Chair, Mel, if I may, tough stuff again, don't misunderstand, but we have those kids in foster care and they're 15 years old.
Yep.
Whatever, 16, 17, 18. How long do we track them, if you will? Do we follow them till they're 21?
21, yes.
And then once they're 21, you're on your own? I don't know.
Yes, the state recommends, and we follow a lot of recommendations as far as setting up adult services for them as much as we can, getting them into adult services as early as we can. Sometimes if they have great significant disabilities, we will slide them over into adult foster care earlier, like around 18, because that makes more sense for them. But there are kids in that gap that don't really meet that deep end service but need support. One of the most difficult things with those kids is just like it is with our own kids when they're that age. They're kind of done with us.
I get it.
And so, you know, sometimes at 18, 19, they're like, I'm out of here. I'm not staying in foster care anymore. I'm doing my own thing. I'm not going to meet with you anymore. I don't want to see you. And they'll do that for a couple months and then they'll come back. But we really try hard and work hard. Staff does a great job at building relationships with these kids, connecting them to community members, relatives, so it's not just us, so that they have other connections out there, but also maintain a good relationship so that they can come back. And I have one of our mental health workers has had a number of these kids through, and it's surprising the phone calls he'll get back from those kids as they're like 25. They'll call them up and talk with them and just check in. And so it's good that we can provide some kind of baseline of giving a caring response to these kids, so they know that if they have a question, they can call back.
Yeah, for those kids, I mean, that's the most difficult kids, those that age out of foster care, because they are like our kids, as she said, they leave, they think they're an adult, they'll be fine, they're sick of us. They really don't have a family to go back to, so we have continued to say we will provide services to those kids as long as we can up to the age of 21. And then if they do qualify for other services, make sure they hook them up, because again, as we know, for those of us that have sent our kids off to school, they struggle from time to time. They need their parents from time to time. These kids don't have those parents. And so really, we have been those parents, and we want to make sure and give them that foundation if we can. Not all do it. Some of us are completely done with us, but there are others that we make ourselves available and will be for forever and ever.
We have a good relationship with the adult unit too, the adult social workers, and so one of the kids that are aging out right now, I know we're already jointly meeting with the adult social worker and the child social worker to start to build that relationship. So we're trying some things like that. Yes, it takes more time from staff, but it also makes more sense in the long run.
Any other questions of Melanie on this? It's a very difficult subject.
We're happy to
It's-
see that relative number climbing. And that's a good thing, so.
This is one of those areas that's really, really expensive, but really, really important in terms of the work that is done. So, and really difficult
Yeah.
work.
Just the amount of time, energy, effort that our agency, the courts, the county attorney's office, to some degree law enforcement has put into these cases is quite a bit. And so, anything that we can help create a successful outcome, we're gonna try and do, so.
Thank you very much.
I just want to thank you. Randy and Jeff both made the comment how passionate all you people are in your departments. And it doesn't matter what department it is. And every situation is an important situation. And not everybody realizes what goes on in other departments. But I know when I walk around, I feel that everybody is very in tuned on what they do and they really care. And it's not an 8 to 5 job. So I do want to thank you very much for all the work everybody does.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
All right.
Cool. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thanks, Melanie.
Stop by anytime.
All right, Karen, your turn. So the other thing I want to talk a little bit about today is a SNAP. Some of you may remember it as a food support program. We now call it the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And we actually received some bonus money, so I wanted to share some of the information we have on SNAP. And of course, we we're talking about Eat Smart this morning. And I do know that Kate and Mary are aware of this program as well and have referred folks over for SNAP. So that's why Karen's here today.
Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, SNAP, gross income limits, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Gross income for the household sizes, elderly and disabled, as long as that entire household is elderly or disabled, they get the higher gross income test. But the entire household has to be elderly or disabled. Okay? How much benefits do they receive? This is the maximum amounts. So if they have income, it's gonna be less. Okay? And then we have a chart, expedited SNAP applications from September of 2016 to August of 2017. You can see how the applications vary from month to month. May of 17 was a busy month.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, are these the EBT, is this that program?
Yes.
The cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was, oh, go ahead, Karen.
Okay.
I was just gonna add something on the expedited area.
Well, I was just gonna explain expedited. What is expedited? Expedited is when someone comes into the agency to apply for SNAP benefits and they have less than $150 in income and assets. So if they have less than that, we try to issue benefits within 24 hours.
Are these new clients every month? Or are
Yes.
these- Okay.
And this was an area we were struggling in meeting the performance timelines, and so Karen and Cindy and Teresa worked together on some changes in practice at the front desk, and it took like about a month, and we were way beyond the performance expectations, and so good work from Karen and Teresa. And it was just a small little area that needed to be reviewed on applications that were dropped off to make sure we're paying attention to that, and so it was very good to see that it took less than a month to improve, so.
Mr. Chair, what determines an asset? Is it a car? Is it cash?
It has to be checking or savings or cash on hand.
Okay, so-
Yeah, a car won't help them get like food right away.
Okay.
It has to be something available to them immediately to help them resolve.
Mr. Chair, Karen, I guess the point that I want to make here is that there is nobody coming to you for SNAP funding, if you will, that does not need it. If I'm understanding you correctly, someone walks into you and they need something, they have, what was the figure again, $100?
Well, 150, if they have less than $150.
So I walk into your office, I have less than $150 and assets, you said,
Or even income,
or income, so I don't own anything.
right.
I have no idea where I have $150. So, I mean, I need it, is what the point that I'm trying to make. That
Correct.
For whatever the reason is, I don't have anything.
Right.
Okay.
We usually try to issue those within 24 hours, normally the same day, if you have nothing.
So do we find, or do you find in Morrison County, and maybe anywhere else, because I'm guessing you know this, that this happens a lot?
Well, right here
That's
is the applications.
Yep, so in August, 20 people came in that met that criteria.
Really?
Yep.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I just want to point out, good work when it comes to the fact that if we weren't meeting the guidelines that we needed to meet, and you got together and you looked at process from start to finish, and you figured it out with the existing staff that we have, with the existing resources that we have. That was just kind of from a business perspective, job well done in
Thank
terms
you.
of doing that.
Very much.
Okay, and then we have ADA programs, new applications or re-apps. ADA programs are if they're on food support, they come in and they're requesting cash assistance. They're on a program already, but they're adding another program. New applications are just exactly that, new applications. Re-apps, they closed for a reason and they're back in reapplying. So you can see from the chart, it varies on that too. Re-apps are always high. They let their case close and they'll come back in, reapply.
And as you can see, they work so fast, they never finish a sentence, and that's the way they talk. Add a prog, re-apps, they want to move fast, so let's not stop it, and wait, let's not waste time by saying an entire word. So,
Okay.
yep, so that is how all of them talk over there, so I just want to be clear.
Yep.
It's not just Karen.
We don't have
get
time
this
to
moving.
mess around, let's do it.
With words.
Sorry, Karen.
That's okay.
You don't look sorry, Karen.
You know, he doesn't, does he?
It's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. SNAP state and county comparisons. 8/116 to 8/31, it just gives you a comparison of cases for the state and the county. Persons for the state and the county, and then payments. And then 8/117 to 8/31/17 does the same.
So you can see we had a little bit of a drop in cases last year compared to this year.
Yep.
Whether it's the economy or, who knows, there's a lot of things I think that play into
There are
that.
a lot of things, yeah. Hopefully it is the economy,
Yep.
though it is doing better.
Does some of that, let's say I went out and I got a job and all of a sudden it didn't work out, is that kind of how that would work, where I was on the program?
Yep.
I got employment, things didn't work out, so now I'm off unemployed again, and then it comes back.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's nice to see some of them that do work out, and
yeah,
they,
yeah. And that's what you're hoping for.
Yep.
yep. Okay, regional, kind of give you an idea of what's happening region-wide. Morrison, Benton, Crow Wing, Mille Lacs, Todd, and Wadena. As you can see, Crow Wing is quite higher, but they're a larger county. And then every dollar spent on SNAP generates $1.84 in additional employment and business. And Amber Waves recently wrote that 54% of food stamp recipients live below 50% of the poverty line.
And generally speaking, most individuals on SNAP have lower resources, less resources, lower income. So most of the SNAP benefits that are provided generally are spent in the community in which the person lives.
Yeah.
And so whether they're applying from Piers or Royalton or Little Falls, generally speaking, they're probably using those benefits in the community they live just because transportation's an issue, resources are an issue. And really, this is one of the foundational programs, I think, in terms of what we do and in terms of making sure people have their basic needs met. Food is most important. And so this has been a very important program for a long time relative to what we have provided. And so it's always nice to see those benefits to the program. And again, almost twice as much is generated by how much is used in SNAP, so.
It's a good program. Okay, and like Brad said, we did receive some bonus money. Morrison County got $10,350. And what we did with that money was we did purchase headsets for the eligibility workers and for the supervisors of those workers and for the clerical and their supervisor. The remaining money Brad wants to spend on the lobby.
Karen, Cindy, and Brad want to use.
That's excellent.
So where do you want to remaining the money to go, Brad? I mean, Karen?
And then kind of give you an idea of how much the region got. Benton got 12,000, Crow Wing, larger county, they got
Yep.
15.
So the state as a whole met payment error rates in terms of federal requirements, and so the state was awarded SNAP money. So you might say, well, why didn't it just go back into the general fund or our fund balance because we weren't expecting it? The state wanted it to be used on program-related expenses. And so, as she said, we used it for headsets for the workers, and then the rest of the money will be used. What we're gonna do is purchase monitors such as that for our lobby area, as well as a program that will allow us to run information across the screen. So hopefully we'll reduce kind of all the paper that people get, sensory, there's no sensory deprivation that goes on when you walk in if you wanna look at paper in our office. And so really trying different ways to to share the messages and information that we have, so. So that money will be there next year or the year after when we move into our new area to at least have some better visuals, so.
Excellent.
So they've done a great job, as I said. You know, we did have one program improvement plan related to expedited, and between Karen, Cindy, and Teresa, they're able to work together and figure that out. And I just, great work by the staff, so,
They do work hard, and it was nice to see them get the headsets.
yeah.
They were really
That helps
appreciative.
in terms of their
Mhm, yep.
ability to talk even faster.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all
Have
you
a good
do.
day.
Thanks, Karen. All right, I have one public health report, if I may, Cindy. So,
Welcome, Cindy.
Good morning, Cindy.
So because of the services that we provide to the elderly, we contract with 4 health plans on the public health side to provide these services. And so what staff always look forward to are audits by the health plans. And so since all 4, since all 4 audits have been done, I asked Cindy if she could share some information on the results and how it's going.
Okay, so in May and June of this year, we had audits from the 4 health plans, Medica, South Country, Blue Plus, and UCare. And they all do similar things, but they all do them a little bit differently, and there's always that subjective part of the review. So 60 data points in every chart that they review are looked at. 10 charts are reviewed. If they find concerns, they review 20 more. So each health plan potentially could review up to 30 charts. So it's a lot of prep for our staff to have those ready. We do know in advance which charts they're looking at, so they give us a little advantage. We have 2 different health plans that they're looking at. So we're looking at one called MSHO, the Minnesota Senior Health Options, and that's for seniors that have chosen to roll their Medicare and their Medicaid benefits into one. If you will, they carry one card instead of 2 or 3. And then there's the Minnesota Senior Care Plus, and that's somebody that has a different Medicare versus, say, their prescription drug plan. They might be carrying 2 or 3 different cards. And that's just a choice that the senior makes. We don't choose that for them. The clients that they looked at were people that are on the elderly waiver program, so they're in their community getting services, and that would include in the assisted livings. They look at clients without services, so they're getting the insurance benefit, but they're not necessarily tapping into, say, home-delivered meals, home health aid, those kinds of things. And they look at clients that are on medical assistance in the nursing home on these 4 health plans. So they look at 3 different kinds of clients. The only one that doesn't carry nursing home clients in this county is Medica, and that particular health plan simply chooses to take those clients back. So we may carry a Medica client in their home with services, and then they transition to the nursing home, and Medica says we'll take that one back and we'll case manage that ourselves. So they just look at that just a little bit differently. So the first one that we got reviewed by was UCare. That's our smallest health plan. We only have between 35 and 40 members on UCare. I don't know why, because our clients get to choose, but for some reason that's the smallest health plan here in Morrison County. They reviewed elderly waiver, community well, and nursing homes, so they carry all 3 kinds of clients. They did their audit desktop only, so that meant they said, here's the clients we want to review, email us all of their charts. So there was a lot of staff time involved in prep for that particular audit because they didn't come on site and go into our computer and look in our records. We had to send the records to them. However, we had 100% compliance on that one, so we never know exactly how in-depth they look at the charts that we send them, but we had good review there. The next one we had was our Medica review. Historically, we have roughly 100 to 120 clients on Medica, so that's one of our bigger health plans as far as the number of people in the county. They did that audit on-site, meaning they sent an auditor here. They went into our computer when we gave them a secure access. They go into our medical record just to the charts that we give them access to, and they review those charts. We have a paper chart as a backup. However, those are going away, and we're going almost entirely paperless. But they pretty much did the review electronically. Our audit with them improved a great deal. In 2016,
They found several things that they considered needing corrective action. When they were here this year, there was 0 items that needed any corrective actions. We had 100% compliance with Medica. And so we considered that a real win when we saw an improvement. Our Blue Plus audit, similar number of clients. We actually saw the Blue Plus numbers grow pretty significantly in the last year and a half with regard to all of the clients that came on with a new assisted living in town at the convent. They've chosen to use Blue Plus. Blue Plus reviews elderly waiver, community well, and nursing home clients. They did an on-site audit, but they did it entirely just like Medica in our electronic medical record. Our results were that we had 3 areas needing corrective action. However, we considered that a win because the previous year we had 5. So we went from 5 areas that needed improvement down to 3. A couple of them were pretty insignificant, real easy for us to correct. And the last of the 4 health plans was South Country Health Alliance. We have roughly 100 clients with South Country. They too have all 3 things, the elderly waiver, community well, and nursing home. They did a hybrid audit, so they had us send some documents ahead of time that they reviewed, and then when they came on site, they looked at some different documents. So it was a little bit different style of audit, but thorough. The results were that we had 100% compliance for the community well and the nursing home clients, and just 2 items that fell below their 95% mark for needing corrective action plans. That too was an improvement from 2016 to 2017. We went from 6 corrective action plans down to 2. So overall, the team really did well. Both Medica and South Country have a pay-for-performance component to the work that we do for them. So they select 3 items that we have to try and meet markers compliance on, and they determine how much we're going to get. So with Medica, we got $38,000 as a pay-for-performance bonus. However, the previous year, they cut what they give us on our overall pay. So it was kind of a wash. But if we don't do well on the audit, then it would be worse. So, you know, even though they took it and we have to kind of work hard to earn it back, we came close to where we were the previous year. South Country had a $7,500 pay-for-performance bonus that we received. They had 3 items and we did 100% on all 3. Medica had 3 items and we got 2 out of 3, and we missed one by a couple of percentage points. So, and some of their items are challenging for us to meet because they're markers that the clients get to decide. For example, the Medica one that we didn't meet was the percentage of clients choosing to get mammograms. We can encourage and you know, remind them and tell them how it happens and where to go, but we can't drag them there kicking and screaming. Some of the compliance are things like the timeliness of our assessments. We get to control that. We can't control every item that they decide is a pay for performance. So going forward then, once those audits are completed, the 2 plans that had corrective action plans, our team has to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to change this? What are we going to do differently? So we have to submit those to the health plan for approval, that they agree this is a good way to remedy that. Those have been submitted and accepted. Most of the time it involves training of staff. Circle back and remind how do we make sure we're doing this right. Internal audits then take place until the next audit. So we continue to look at those things, especially that we had corrective action plans on, so that hopefully the next audit doesn't show those items again. The other thing that the case management team is doing is we're scanning all of our charts. So we had this PHDoc electronic record, and we have some paper documents, things that clients sign, et cetera. And we were keeping kind of a dual record, and we're trying to clean that up. With our move coming, we did not want to move 400 charts. We want it to be more streamlined. Doing our audits in the computer this year was well received by all the health plans, and that was what we really needed to hear. We can find what we need in this chart in the computer. We're not going to need that paper chart. And that was what kind of gave us the impetus. Okay, let's move forward. I think we're down to less than 20 charts left to scan, so.
Good deal.
So there's a
We're
chart
making-
room about, maybe about this size?
Yeah.
Maybe just a hair smaller with file cabinets all the way around, and Cindy and her staff did a great job, and I think the,
getting there.
all all the file cabinets or all the shelving is gonna be taken out shortly,
I just
so.
put in a maintenance request for the shelves to go and.
So,
Mr. Chair, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
and you did it
That's-
with existing staff. They all stepped up, they did the work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a big deal
Yeah.
for us, and we're gonna feel a lot later when it's time to move, so. I think that was a good thing. And I think the audit was kind of what triggered that. It was like, okay, they can find what they need. It doesn't have to be on paper.
Yeah.
And if they can't, the auditors are great at saying, am I missing this somewhere? It's in there somewhere, so we help them locate it if they can't.
So, Mr. Chair, Cindy, how many people does this entail of our staff, county staff?
6 case managers and 2 case aides, as well as myself. And then peripherally, we have one person that does min choices assessment, but she doesn't do the health plan work. But she'll assess people that may eventually end up on a health plan, so she's part of that team.
So we had
You know.
8, 9, 10 people that were involved in an audit.
yeah,
And we did pretty well in the audit, but I'm
Yeah.
anticipating that there might have been just a little bit of tension during the audit and a little pressure.
Yeah, everybody
Never
gets
was
pretty
that.
amped up.
it is probably one of the more stressful things that
Without a
we
doubt.
do,
Yep.
when health plans or any organization comes in to take a look at how are you doing things. And, and I wouldn't call necessarily these audits quality reviews, because really, they're not really going out to talk to the client and say, how did Kevin do with
Yeah.
your services?
Yeah.
They're really looking at the detail of the activities, and so it's really about documenting
Exactly.
those kinds of things. And so I wouldn't necessarily call it a quality review, but there's certainly, it's important to make sure we're doing what they are asking of us in our charts.
I'd say.
And
good
so
job.
they-
Morrison County with 4 health plans has a very challenging audit
Yeah.
situation, because there are counties that have 1 health plan.
Yep.
So we have 4 different auditors that have 4 different lenses when they come
Yep.
here, and they all look at it a little bit differently, and we gotta swing and adjust. This health plan likes to see this, even though they're all auditing the same thing that the federal government tells them to audit, there's
Yep.
still some room for interpretation, and we
Sure.
have to adapt to
Yep.
that. And the other thing that happens is, some of these health plans in turn get audited by CMS on the federal level. So we had some charts pulled again after these audits, re-audited, so checking their work. So they have to be particular, because the feds come back and look at their work, and we did
Absolutely.
well on
Yeah.
those audits as well. We have sometimes 2 or 3 per health plan that are pulled for a federal audit, and that's probably even more stressful, because the feds come in and say, we're auditing, and here's the list, we don't know ahead of time, and we want all this documentation faxed to us within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So we gotta really jump on those.
And again, part of this is about fraud, waste, and abuse. Do we hear stories every week, every month about, providers cheating the Medicare, Medicaid system? And so part of this is a result of that as well, just to make sure we're earning the money on clients who are eligible and doing the work, so.
Yep.
So good job by the staff and Cindy. So it does take a lot of work to get ready for these. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
And then I just have one more thing to say, and that is, you might have seen in the record the last 2 weekends that Subway is again collecting coats for kids, for families. So the last 2 weekends, they have taken them. I believe Coburn's is going to be cleaning them this week. And so probably the end of this week, beginning of next week, we should have a number of coats hanging outside the social services lobby for families to take, all sizes, shapes. And so we're very pleased to partner with Coburn's and Subway on this, and Jacket. Subway's been very good about giving out 6-inch subs. Also, Marilyn Keith from the Piers Area Coalition is also collecting coats. She's working with her students in Epic at Piers and is bringing some coats over as well. So hopefully, it seems like this winter might be a little colder than average. At least it's starting out that way. So we'll hopefully be able to meet the needs of some of those families that might not have the right sizes. So you can look for that, and
Good.
so
Thank you very much, Brad.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Land Service report. Good morning. Welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
I think you've met my high school intern already.
think so.
This is Megan. She's spending the entire day with us.
Wow,
So,
wow.
Gets out of school, huh?
yes. And then, of course, I've got Brett here. So I've got a few things for you. The first one is to consider the conditional use permit request from the Rarick Family Revocable Living Trust. And that is to expand an existing storage rental business. And that would be through the construction of an additional 40 by 75 shed. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval of that with one condition, and that is that all storage shall be within the buildings and no outdoor storage shall occur on the site.
Can I get a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is to consider the conditional use permit request for Greg Sweeney, and that was to expand the existing Tier 1 feedlot to a Tier 2 feedlot. This was also recommended for approval by the Planning Commission with 5 conditions. And those conditions were abide by local and state law, notify road authority when hauling manure during road restrictions, abide by the good neighbor, stormwater, and feedlot odor minimization plans, plant and maintain a grass buffer around the perimeter of the barns after construction for ongoing stormwater management, and stockpiling of manure shall not occur on site unless upon a stacking slab. Off-site manure stockpiling shall be upon suitable soils and away from sensitive features, and the property owner shall notify the feedlot officer of manure cleanout.
I'll move on this one, Mr.
Got
Chair.
a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And then we've got the 2018-2019 MPCA County Feedlot Program Delegation Agreement Work Plan. So we usually like to take this opportunity to recap the past year of the feedlot program and then talk about the plan for this next season. So I've got Brett here to go through that with you.
So I guess this last year, our delegation agreement was a goal of 52 inspections. Right now, I'm at 46. It's been really busy with the chicken barn construction, so that's kind of taken up a lot of my time. But there's still 2 months to reach that goal. The minimum's 44, so we've already met our requirements. So anything now is just extra, I guess. For the new delegation agreement for 2018, 2019, it's very similar to the last one. A few things have changed, kind of the inspection strategy. A lot of the compliance inspections, again, will be focused in the high nitrate townships. And then also PCA wanted me to focus a few inspections in Two Rivers townships on shoreland sites. A lot of them are smaller sites, but that being part of the RAPS plan in the Mississippi River watershed. And some of them feedlots have kind of gone under the radar. And looking at aerial, there are some that could use a few improvements. So a few of my inspections will be focused there. And then also going through feedlot files, I guess another focus will be at sites where previous inspections have been done and they haven't had very good land records or manure management plans or thing like that, and they've been told to, hey, this is what you gotta do for next time. So a lot of my inspections will be going back to these sites to see if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. There are a few new inspection types that they've come up with. So they're taking away the level 2 and the level 3 inspections, which level 3 was actually going out to the field when they're applying manure and watching them. The level 2 was going through their records and doing calculations of nitrogen and stuff. They've come up with a nitrogen inspection, and that's replacing, part of a basic compliance inspection is to look to see if they have land app records. Well, the nitrogen inspection's actually gonna be digging into them records to make sure they're adequate records, they're not over applying, they're not doing whatever. There'll also be stockpile inspections, so anytime I see a stockpile or stockpile complaint, I can do a full-blown inspection on it, not just look at where the stockpile is.
And I think, and I'll interrupt, I think that marries very well with some of the conversations we've had, some of the conditions we've put on these barns, and also some of the other nitrate work that we're doing with the Soil and Water Conservation District. And also, we're partnering with our GIS specialist to map those fields. So I think with the added support from the MPCA on that focus, I think that marries very well with what we're already undertaking in that area.
Yeah, so basically the nitrogen and the phosphorus inspections, or desktop inspections is what they're calling them, give me more, I guess, power to go in and look through their records more thoroughly and not just verify that they have them, actually look at the numbers they have, not just, okay, yeah, here's your records, you're good to go. And other than that, nothing's changed in the delegation agreement. Registration's gonna be done the same. Again, our goal is 52 each year. That depends on construction short forms, what other things come up, I guess. 44 is the minimum again. We'll be registering the FEDOT will register once every 4 years like they've done in the past, so, and they'll get 3 mailings for that, so hopefully they reply on one of the 3. And then, other than that, nothing's really changed. It's all pretty much the same as the 2016, 2017.
I think when we look at our plan, we look at when we kind of prioritize where we're going to focus some of those inspections, you can't get all of those done in one cycle. So a lot of times we will identify the same goal or the same priority a couple of years in a row to be able to really fully accomplish that goal. And so those high nitrate townships definitely are carryover from, because we can't get to all of those. I think the other thing the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has done over the years is they've placed more weight and more value on certain types of activities. And I think that's where our feedlot program has really shined, because they're putting more weight on actual fixes that happen. They take a lot longer to do, but then when it comes to that performance credit that we talk about, when we go a little bit above and beyond, they put more weight on some of those activities, which is where we've tended to do well in. And so that has been something that we've really focused on, those
So, Mr.
meaningful
Chair,
Changes.
Amy?
Yes.
And I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah.
and cut you off, and I don't want to interrupt Brett either. And I don't mean to put either of you on the spot. But Brett, you said that PCA is saying that we're gonna look at townships that have more or higher nitrates than others. So I am putting you on the spot. How are we gonna fix that? And as I say that, how are we gonna fix that? Nobody has really told me yet where nitrates come from or where the problem is coming from. Could be water, could be the sky, could be fertilizer, commercial, could be manure, fertilizer. Nobody has really said, because I don't know that anybody really can pinpoint, no. We can assume, and I think it's been assumed over and over and over, that it is chicken manure, it's turkey manure that is causing our high nitrates. And we've talked about a stacking slab here and a manure storage area there. Do you have an idea on how we're gonna fix this?
As far as fix the
Nitrate
high nitrates?
problem
Well,
in the townships that are,
I
how
think
do we fix that?
where it starts is, I think we know enough about what can contribute to high nitrates, and what the vulnerable soils are for nitrates. So really, it's looking at all of those things that have a potential to contribute. One of them, the Department of Ag is really looking at, and that's that commercial fertilizer piece. Where we kick in and where we have jurisdiction is that manure application, the manure storage. And so I think looking at all of those different pieces of the puzzle, and now that MPCA is giving a little bit more weight as far as, now we're really gonna look at how are you applying this? When are you applying this? And are you applying this at the right rate? So I think all of those things put together is going to help where we have items that we know have the potential to contribute to a high nitrate. Because you can have naturally occurring high nitrates as well that can be compounded with all of these other things that we do on the land. And so I don't know that there is well, as soon as we get this taken care of, the nitrates are going to go down. It's not that simple of a thing to do, but at least taking a look at everything that has the potential to contribute to that, and this is part of that, and that's kind of where we fit in the delegated feedlot.
And I know the question I asked is a $6 million question. That
I wish we knew.
we all knew that we
Yeah.
wish we had the answer to.
Yes.
So, no, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a gentleman come to the house that I consider an expert on nitrates.
Yes.
And he said about the same thing you're saying. And he says all the work that we can do will help slow down the disaster, if there is a disaster. He says you're not gonna correct this completely, but all the things that we do in looking at the things that we are
That impact
may,
it, or that
may
could.
slow it down somewhat. And he was very interesting on, so we'll have to get him someday.
He reached out to me, and had a very nice
Yep.
conversation with him, yes.
And he really explained things in detail on how this all works, just to help you understand it a little better.
Yeah, and he expressed some interest in sitting on our stakeholder group, and I think he would be a fantastic addition to that. So
Yep.
I will definitely be reaching out to him for
Sounds
that.
good, thank
yes.
you.
And if I may, again, monitoring's a big issue. I mean, so you don't know what the high nitrates were 10 years ago, 15 or whatever, but now we're starting to see and keeping.
We're starting to get some baseline information,
Exactly.
and that's very helpful, absolutely.
And Brett, too, as far as, you give a notification to the farmers, I'm assuming you're coming out. How
Yep.
much notification you give them, a week,
I
month,
usually
2,
send
year?
out a letter about 2 weeks in advance,
Okay.
and that gives them the chance to respond. If they don't want me out there, time doesn't work for them, then they can call
Right.
me. And
And
a
when
lot
you-
of times I get the sites though, and they're not there. They don't show up. They don't whatever. But
So then you just.
I see what I can see. I don't go
Right.
walking through their stuff unless
Right,
they're on site.
exactly.
And
Okay,
they
that's-
want me
Sounds
there.
good.
yeah.
So really what I'm looking for here is just approval of this delegation agreement work plan for the 2018.
So moved for more
2019.
discussion.
Okay, we got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Is there any more discussion? The discussion, what is this 2018 county program-based grant award feedlot numbers? Is that all the feedlots that we have compared to the other counties?
Yes, so our funding is based on the number of registered feedlots that we have, and so every year that might change just a little bit, and I budget that base amount. And then they also do have a performance credit then for, that's where that weighted kind of points program really comes into effect for doing some of those other elevated things that are a little bit above and beyond what needs is that, and that's if you're inspecting more than your base number of required, your 7%. And then if you're undertaking some of those practices like full fixes on some of these and all of that. And so there's two components to the funding, the base grant and then that performance, and that performance will vary from year to year.
Because it looks like we've got about fourth or fifth in the state number of feedlot numbers.
Mr. Chair, those are the counties that have the delegated agreements, I assume?
That's correct,
So
yep.
not all counties, but counties that are choosing to do
Work
this
under
work.
this process, okay,
Yeah,
thank
like
you.
Some other counties have the MPCA do them rather
Oh,
than.
okay.
Yeah, they don't have enough feedlots really to
Right.
have a
And Brett,
full-time.
another question, when you go and do these inspections, you know, you got 52 supposedly you gotta do in a year. How long does an inspection average take?
Depends on the type.
Right.
If it's a chicken barn, there's land records, a manure plan are the biggest things I look at. Other than that, I don't go into the barn, so there's not much
Okay.
to look at.
Total confinement barns
Yeah,
are
maybe
really,
those 20 minutes, half
Right,
hour, depending
yeah.
on how long the records take to look at.
Sure.
But you get to some bigger dairy sites where there's a lot of open lots and stuff like that, and be out there for an hour.
And then when you said you drive around now, the MPCA's allowing you, if you see manure storage in a field or something like that, you happen to
I
see
could,
that,
yeah, I could do a full-blown inspection on that.
and before you couldn't?
I could just verify that you couldn't do a full-blown inspection. You could just
Okay.
look at where the stockpile is and,
and are the soil
yeah,
suitable?
or then you can issue them a letter of
Okay.
warning if it wasn't suitable area. Where now I can actually do an inspection, and that would count towards my 52 inspections.
Okay.
Oh.
That's what I thought, yeah.
We have, when you talk about MPCA, they do what, level 3s?
They do, but that's, the name's changing now, but
Okay, but I mean, is this other program based on 1s and 2s?
What,
Or it's all a combined?
so you do inspection levels 1,
2
2,
and
and
3.
3.
Yes.
MPCA, when we get over, what is it, 2,500 animal, no, 1,000.
1,000.
If it's over 1,000 animal units, that's under MPCA jurisdiction regardless if you have a delegation agreement.
Period.
Okay, period.
So they would be the ones
Yeah.
that would be going in to do the level, any inspection. Typically, and we do have some farms that are under MPCA jurisdiction just because of the number of animal units.
Yep.
But typically, they will notify Brett and say, hey, we're doing a level 3, and he'll accompany them.
Oh,
Okay.
So we're at least aware of what's going on with those feedlots, even though we're not the ones that are administering feedlot rules on those. We're at least aware. So it's a good working relationship with them. You know, the left hand knows
So
what the right's
generally
doing.
speaking, if MPCA comes to this big dairy that we don't have control over to do an inspection, you also are with them?
If they
Generally
notify me,
speaking?
and, yeah.
Yeah, typically, or they will let them know, hey, we got a complaint on this and we're going out. So they're always communicating with us to say, this is what we're up to in your county.
Okay,
So that has been.
okay. Very
And they
good.
probably would rather have him out there with them because he probably knows the farmer to
Well,
keep everything a little
Well,
bit
and the
more
other
I
thing
would.
too, the other thing too is we still have a conditional use permit on those.
Yeah.
And
Right,
that's
so
right.
part of us knowing what's going on is that could be a violation of one of their conditions. And so the MPCA realizes and understands the county level permitting process and that we still have a place in that. And so they've been good about communicating.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
You have to take a vote.
I was gonna say, we got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right,
Thank
that's
you
all I
very
have.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very,
Thank
very
you.
Thank
kindly.
you.
Amy, are you in today?
I am in.
And Megan, you can come anytime you want to, just so you know that. Stay all day if you want.
Maybe I'll take you up on that.
Math test.
Because you want to, not
Hanging
because
out
you-
here.
Math test, geography, yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, auditors report. Welcome, Deb.
Good morning, Deb.
Chair, gentlemen. I wanted to bring before you a contract from the Schneider Corporation. I do have some
I-
copies
you have
in
copies.
case.
Do you want another copy?
Does anybody need
I've got it
one?
on my thing
I
here.
looked at it.
Any so
Yep.
far? And I'm requesting board approval to allow the county to enter this contract with Schneider Corporation, which temporarily provides parcel mapping for the county until our department staff is trained, which we're hoping is no longer than 6 months, depending on where we can find the training and fit it in. So right now, we don't have anybody else in the county who can do the parcel mapping, but we do have somebody who will be able to assist us with some of the intricacies of the program. He just doesn't have the ability to get down and dirty with the individual parcel mapping. So we're looking for
Motion?
a motion to,
Could I get a motion to accept this contract?
I'll move on it for discussion, Mr. Chair.
I got a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm a little bit disappointed that we don't have anybody, and Deb, you know that we don't have anybody that understands to do this. That's just life in the fast lane. I get that also. I also know this is a temporary thing.
yes.
Do we need to have a not to exceed? What's temporary mean? Temporary can go on forever.
Well-
And I got it. I know we gotta go to school and we have to learn this, and we want it done in the next 6 months. Would we not get it done in the next 3 months? In the next month? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Right, and it's gonna depend on where we can find the training, how much it's gonna cost, so if we wanna go out or bring somebody in. And we don't want to,
We don't know that now. What do we need to learn about when that is?
right, and I don't want to overwhelm Jolene trying to train her either. So right now it is approximately 8 splits per month that we do, that we need to map. So it's not an overwhelming amount of parcels that we need to map. So the cost is not prohibitive, but it's tracking down who does the training, how often, to find out what that cost is versus the cost of bringing somebody on site to train Jolene and I, so that she would have a backup also, and figuring out what our options
We
are.
haven't found that out yet?
Not yet,
obviously.
but we are gonna work on that, so I'm hoping to figure that out really soon.
If I may, Mr. Chair, you bring up the training, wouldn't that have been something that we would have looked in 2 weeks ago, a month ago, so
Well-
you'd already know where you're going with this?
I mean, to be fair, we had talked with Amy and Brad, and we've been working with them for over a year on this. And originally, Brad had said he'd be willing to help us, but things have changed, and that's,
Mr. Chair, I think Brad is absolutely still willing to help, and that was
And
identified
help.
as an option and continues to be identified as an option, however, not his primary job. So the idea was that to fill in temporary gaps, that we have some people that have general knowledge of what's going on. And that offer's still on the table, absolutely, but it certainly isn't a long-term solution.
right,
So
and
it
the
was
amount of
marrying
time
the
he's has to give us has changed, and
I might not,
Go ahead.
I might not be thinking straight, but I would think I could go on the computer and find that there's 4 classes in the next 6 months or a year, and they're these dates and it costs this much, or is that not the way this works?
well, I think we can go online and look to see if this company is doing any training, that kind of thing.
I think if we have this company's product, this company's gonna get over here and train us.
They are definitely willing to come on site and train us, and there's gonna be a fee to that.
So we do know what the fee is gonna be.
I don't know what the fee is to come on site yet.
I guess I'm thinking out loud here again. This contract is to use their services.
Right.
There may be other people out there that can train us
Right,
besides this company.
But
right,
this-
and that's what I want to consider the option of somebody else doing the training versus them, so we have some options.
But we know this company could do the training.
Definitely.
But not yet, we don't know that. And again, I'm gonna have to follow up on Commissioner Jelinski when they say temporary. I don't wanna have that as a perpetual temporary. 6 months, let's get her done in 6 months, I mean, that's me.
Well, we
you know?
should have a plan of dates and stuff coming
Yeah,
up.
right, we
that-
should.
Is this something like there's an organization, for instance, that's gonna meet at the Kelly Inn on next Monday, and everybody around the counties that want to participate would participate? Or is this more of a type of training that they come into your courthouse and they train you with your stuff? Or, I don't know the answer to that.
This company is willing to come in and train you one-on-one, but they also do group training, but it's not on a regular basis.
Okay.
So that's why I don't know when and where there's the next training. It's depending on need and how much turnover there is.
And Mr. Chair, we're not the only one in the state of Minnesota that uses this product.
No.
So I think there are other counties that we can look to for assistance. Many of us do
Exactly.
in the different disciplines that we have. We look to other counties to see what resources they have or what knowledge that they have that they're willing to share or that we can tap into when we have a difficult situation or something along those lines.
Would I be wrong in thinking, though, that by our next board meeting, you would be able to bring us some information that there is training coming up? If they come here, the training is gonna be this much, and can they come, and when can they come?
Or we have
Yeah.
to go there, we have to
Yeah.
do whatever we need. I think
Yeah, I
that's
should be
kind
able
of
to do some
important.
research.
But I would like to see that done as quick as possible so that we can get this person trained. And I know there's a lot going on right now, but this is still part of that.
Absolutely.
And another question, maybe, our county attorney can, on the bottom, it says pricing is valid through November 30th. Is that if we don't sign the contract, or is it after November 30th, even if we do sign the contract,
No.
that they could raise it?
That's if we don't sign the contract.
Yeah, these prices are valid until the end of the
Okay,
month.
all right.
Well, I guess right now we have a motion on the floor to go with this contract. And a second. Is there any further discussion on that? If not,
Again, do we want to put a timetable on this here, as far as, 6 months, a year, 3 months? Just throwing that out there. I think it's something we should look at.
What do you think?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't know that we know enough about, I mean, we don't know when that is offered yet. Apparently, we need to learn a little bit more
Yeah,
before we can
I
say
mean,
for
give
certain.
me a chance to find out if there's any training coming up.
Well, we
I'm
could
more
renew
than,
it. We could renew it in 6 months, right?
Just
it's
for
an open-ended
future
contract.
reference too, we'd like, that should have been part of this process, is you should have known
We should
when
know
the
what the school
classes
is.
are, how
Right.
much it costs, when they're available. That should have been worked in all of this, in my
I
personal
agree with you,
opinion.
yeah.
Well, and I wish I had another 8 hours in a day. I've been trying to learn along with Jolene to learn Brenda's job also.
Then maybe we
And
should have waited
so,
to bring this forward then, but.
well,
In the future, it'd be nice to know all those.
I agree. And I, if I had time, I wish I could have. But it's one of those things where I'd like to keep the parcel mapping up to date if we have the option. It's an open-ended contract that we can use or not use if you choose. We can choose not to enter into it and just not update the parcel mapping for a while.
And Mr. Chair, I believe that's not what we're saying here. We're just saying we got half the information that should be presented at the time of bringing this forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the training, what's that gonna cost? $1,000, $5,000, 500?
it doesn't really matter
And
because
does it really
it's going to have to be done.
Yeah,
I guess the
absolutely.
point is, if we knew when a class was coming, she's gonna go to this class, we would know how long this agreement is.
Yeah.
Am I reading this right? 7 days you can get out of the notice, one way or the other? Or-
Right, I mean, we have the option to get out of this contract pretty much at any time we want. Or we can leave it open, and even after we're trained, we could use them if we wanted to. So it's one of those kind of contracts where if something happened to us, we could use the contract if we needed a backup. It's one of those types of contracts. The pricing is really not bad for a backup service.
Mr. Chair, I think this is one of those examples about succession planning and what it is we need to do as supervisors, as managers, to make sure that we're prepared. It was one of those that we had learned of Brenda's actual retirement coming up months ago and had heard about it years prior to that. So I think that's maybe where some of
But
that.
we thought Brad was gonna be able to help us with that training and with that succession, and that wasn't able to happen.
Well, I think we got the message across.
I think so.
I think so too.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion? If not, all in favor signify. I'm sorry, did you read this here?
I did, yes, I
Okay.
have no objections to it.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deb.
Should we do the warrants while she's up here?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, why don't we do
Might
this?
as well.
Can I get a motion for the warrant?
So
Pay
moved.
the bills, got a warrant? I got a warrant.
Second.
By Commissioner Wincher. I've got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. All in favor to pay the bills signify by. Roll call, yeah. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank
I don't know
Thank
why-
you.
I don't know why I would
Deb.
forget that.
You will in another month
Like
or
2
two.
months I got, yeah.
It's easy, you get in the roll.
Okay, Public Works.
That one is, yeah.
See you, Brian.
Look at the nuclear time.
How you doing, Steve?
Good morning,
Morning,
Mr.
Steve.
Chairman,
Morning,
members
Steve.
of the board. Good to see you, everyone. I have 2 items on in your packet for your consideration today. The first being, as the board is well aware, we have been working to try to obtain outside resources for repair on the Sioux Line Bridge over the Mississippi River. At the end of 2016, we applied for a grant through the DNR. And there aren't a lot of maintenance-type grants available through the DNR, but there is this federal recreational trail grant that is available. And we were successful in obtaining $150,000 to go towards the repair of the piers on that structure. It requires that we have a $50,000 match, which is built into our Parks and Trail budget for 2018. And so in order for this project and this work to move forward, we need to enter into this agreement with the DNR to be able to access those funds. So we have a resolution that we're requesting the board to approve, authorizing the chairman and the administrator to sign the agreement.
I'll move on this, Mr.
Got a
Chair.
motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? Steve, the only discussion I have on this, we're talking about the bridge going over the river, and we're talking about right now, that's a bicycle trail. And we've had some discussion about four-wheelers going over that bridge too. Does grant funding come available a little easier when you have both items addressed, or
I think it could possibly be more difficult, actually.
more difficult? Okay, because we're working with kind of an organization with bicycle trails versus-
Everything has kind of been set up as motorized, non-motorized.
Okay.
And it was promulgated on this safety issue. That I think that as time is going on, that they're realizing that it's not that big of a conflict, and that in order for some of this stuff to be able to move forward, there's going to have to be sharing of these facilities. It just is too expensive, too hard to develop, too hard to put into place, where you think you can have separated motorized with non-motorized. And so originally, the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Highway Bill, that's when we took our funds for the surfacing of the trail. That was part of the arrangement, is that it was non-motorized and we weren't going to allow ATVs on it. That's what we had agreed to. That's why it's difficult to be able to do what we want to do. But I think that's changing. I think that as time goes on, it may be different, but right now it's more difficult when you're trying to combine the two.
Okay, thank you very much.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, and again, if somebody wants to know why we're doing this, well, this structure is what, 110 years old and plus?
Yes, it is.
It needs repair.
Well, and when,
Needs
yeah,
some
when you
work.
go out there and look at it, you can tell where the concrete's breaking and stuff, and there's no question about that. So, okay, I think this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
And aye.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, also included in your packet is an agreement with the Department of Revenue to authorize the collection of the transit sales and use tax for the county that we initiated earlier this year. What this is, it covers the administrative costs for the Department of Revenue to do those collections for us and submit those revenues to the county. In there is an example, it's somewhat a little bit difficult to follow on how they determine that. And essentially, they're determining it on two things. They're determining it on the amount of revenue the county will get from the tax that we have implemented, and also the number of tax lines that they have to go through in order to determine how much that is. And so our percentage of those compared to the state, the overall state percent or volume of those is how that administrative cost is determined. So 1/3 is based on the revenue you bring in, 2/3 of the administrative cost is based on the number of tax lines they have to evaluate to determine that. And they go through an example in the agreement, but essentially what it is, we'll get so much sales tax from what we've implemented, and that's a percentage of the total sales tax collected across the state for a local option sales tax. So if that is, in this example, it was 8%. And so 8% of it was coming from Morrison County. 1/3 of that 8% is what they're going to apply to their administrative costs for us to pay. And they do the same thing on the tax lines. If there were 90,000 tax lines they had to evaluate across the state. Ours were 9,000, so we had 10% of the tax lines. 2/3 of that would be our share of the volume that they had to administer in determining our amount of sales tax. And so they add those two percentages together, take that times the amount of their administrative costs for the month, and that's what our share is. We'd anticipate, based on my contacts with some of the other counties, that we'll be in the range of about a 2% administrative costs annually for implementing and collection of this tax. It's pretty well all been put in place. It's now to be collected.
And Mr. Chair, that process of applying that half-cent sales tax is done. This is with the Department of Revenue to implement the logistics of that.
So we have a resolution. That wasn't in your original packet, but what I did is the resolution authorizing the DNR agreement, I doctored it up so it authorized the collection of the sales tax agreement. So what we're asking is that you'd enter into the adopt the resolution authorizing the chairman and the administrator to enter into the agreement for the collection of the tax.
I'll move on that, Mr.
Got a
Chair.
motion by Commissioner Jelinski.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion?
One tiny bit, Mr. Chair. What if we didn't approve that? I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna just boldly ask the question. What if we said no?
We wouldn't be able, Mr. Chair, to administer what it is you've already approved us.
That's what I was pretty much sure of, but I wanted
Or
to ask
maybe
you.
you could start clearing.
No, I'm not going to. Thank you, that's what I
Is this a
was
roll
pretty
call
sure
by
of.
chance? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, thank you.
Thanks.
Did you go deer slaying?
Okay, administrators report.
Mr. Chair, I did not have an action item in the board packet, however, I'm adding one. And Beth, being kind of, old/new to this game, appreciates that when I sneak something in last minute. But I did just hear, we had spoke briefly about
Yeah, Dwayne.
the
Appreciate it.
the NJPA nomination. Commissioner, Mr. Chair, Wilson sits on the NJPA board right now. It is the time of year in your term, that would be up for nomination. I did hear that you, the remaining three, that's not Commissioner Wilson, we're okay with nominating him, but I just wanted a motion to be able to proceed with formally doing that.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna
sorry.
support this if you're gonna support it. I guess I
I would
don't,
like to be on that board.
that's
yes,
what I
would.
need. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
Very good.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
if I may bring this, we discussed this at the last planning meeting. We do not have a vice chair.
Yes,
We
we
would-
do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we
We-
may.
Do we have to do that?
Last board meeting, we
Did we
did
do that at the board meeting or
nominate.
the planning?
No, we did it at the board
We
meeting.
did.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, thank you for
I know, I
the,
nominated, that's right, now I
Yep.
nominated, okay.
it was not exactly the smoothest effort
That's
that
right,
we've ever
okay, I
done,
thought
but
that was at
it
the
definitely
planning.
got the job done.
All right, congratulations.
But thank you for bringing that up again.
Yeah. Sorry.
But-
Do you have anything else, guys?
No, just a reminder, open enrollment is continuing. Beth's been working really hard actually on working with employees and getting them enrolled in benefits for the 2018 year. It's been going quite smooth. A lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, but we're getting it
Busy
done.
time here.
We're getting it done. So thank you for doing that or working with her if you haven't yet to get that done.
Okay, next we'll do our committee reports and upcoming schedules.
I'll need your schedules from November 13th through November 26th.
I'll go first this time and Mike will go second because we always kind of get to say, we're covered. So-
You're the chair.
So
You're
we'll
in
do it
charge, buddy.
backwards.
Have at it.
Monday, November 13th, I got a meeting at Buckman Township at 7 o'clock in the evening. The 14th, the planning session. The 15th, there's a kitchen open house in Eagle Bend from 1 to 3. The 16th, I got Region 5 at Little Falls Chamber. I've got a PAC meeting in Piers.
What time is that, Region 5?
3. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Nope, that's good, thank you. And I got a PAC meeting in Piers at 9, and I got an airport commission at 12. On Friday, the 17th, Mississippi Headwaters in Aiken. And Saturday is a 4-H awards banquet. What's the time on that one?
7.
7, VFW Little Falls.
VFW Little Falls, okay.
What's the time on that?
7 o'clock at the VFW.
And Monday, the 20th, I got community development at Pine Country Bank. And Tuesday, the county board meeting, but I did have on my calendar the community development, but that got switched to Monday. And on Thursday, the 23rd, I got Region 5 in Staples.
That's
That's Thanksgiving.
But
Isn't it 24th?
perhaps you're having.
23rd is Thanksgiving.
No, then I don't have it. It's on my schedule, that's when we did
Yeah,
have it.
it's your typical meeting.
Yep. Okay, that's all I have, Mike.
Okay. The only difference I got is the 16th is TCC, and how come you're on this calendar as?
Well, Mr. Chair, we are trying to, Beth's access to your calendars is different than what Tabitha had.
Oh.
So we need to figure out how to get that, otherwise we're trying to, for today, we did the best we could to try to figure out.
No, that's fine.
what
It's
to
just
do.
he was getting like a bunch of.
Well, yeah, that just happened that day we were walking out, I got about 8 of Mike's confirmations, you know,
And you
so-
know, and I think, since Tabitha has left and Dwayne's passing, I don't know that the calendar has been updated from here on out for the remainder of the year also. Because it's my
Oh, we
understanding
did,
that
yeah,
things have
yeah.
been reassigned possibly in the meantime. So I'll have to take some time and look at that too, so.
Yeah, so sorry about that, we just
No.
tried to come up with what would work best for today, and then realized, oh, there's a little bit more
Right.
that we have to do behind the scenes that we didn't realize it until, it was a little late to get it in for today, so.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh, I just was,
Yeah.
I was just trying to help him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tired of
Okay,
getting
Randy?
yes.
Okay, with the Live Better, Live Longer, they're having that Sprout meal at 4:45 on the 13th over at the Sprout Building. And then I have our soil and water was changed. Now it's gonna be on the 16th at 9 a.m. Got that one, got that one. Great River Regional Library at the board meeting on the 21st at 6. And then I also have a labor negotiation on the 22nd at 8:30, and that takes care of mine.
Okay, Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, on Tuesday, the 14th at 11:30 in the morning, we're scheduled for a Thanksgiving dinner at Social Services, I believe.
Okay, that's Thursday,
No, Tuesday, the 14th.
Tuesday, the 14th.
Well, we're all probably gonna be there.
That perhaps could have been in your mailbox,
Yeah.
some other documents.
And at 12 o'clock that day, I've got a Towards Zero Death meeting at the Public Health Library. On the 15th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a public safety conference that is every year, and it's in St. Cloud. I'm on that planning portion of that public safety conference. That's done through a phone conference call, so that'll be at my house at 1 o'clock. 5 o'clock on the 15th, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting here in Morrison County, Meeting Room 3. On the 16th, there's an Armor Owners and Operators meeting in Alexandria at 10 o'clock. I think I have Egg Society on the 16th, but I don't even have a location yet for that, so I don't know where that's gonna be at. 17th, I've got a Armor Rack meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning in Benton County. On the 18th, at 11:45, I was asked to participate again on what is called Class 34 of the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities in Policymaking, and that is in Bloomington. I participated in that last year. It was very eye-opening, and they asked me to come back again this year. That's about all I have.
Can
I think.
anybody tell me what CRVST meeting is?
Camp Ripley Veterans State Trail.
Okay, it says meeting's canceled.
Yeah, Bob canceled that.
You
Okay.
don't go to that.
Well, that's why I was wondering, I got it and it said
Yep.
it's canceled, I wasn't sure what it was.
I
So,
attend, that.
okay.
Yeah, I don't, anybody can go to it.
No, but you're right, I mean, I just wanted to make
Yep,
sure it
and
wasn't
it's
something I
canceled.
was supposed to be
Nope,
going to.
It's canceled. I
Okay,
forgot when that was already. And I saw the email.
It's canceled, so
I just had, well, yeah, but
It was on
it's
Thursday.
canceled.
Thursday the what?
something, it's canceled.
It was on Thursday the 9th, it's canceled.
Okay, if we
I
have
didn't
nothing
scratch out of
else,
this one yet.
could I get a meeting to adjourn?
The meeting?
That's the one,
Get-
Mr. Chair.
Get a motion to adjourn, I'm sorry. We got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Wincher. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody.